Hi, how you doing? So this video is going to be on structured purchases. So this is where when you're going into property development or you're already in property development, again, I keep saying this depending on whereabouts you enter, which part on the journey you're on, structured purchasing is a really creative way for both the landowner and the buyer to make good money and to make a deal work. Because sometimes in an ideal scenario, kind of I'm talking like a perfect situation, a landowner has achieved planning permission and they're prepared to sell it for the right price where all the numbers make sense. You've got the sufficient profit margin and the buyer can buy it at the right number, and that all happens really seamlessly. The reality is that this doesn't happen, doesn't exist. There's always a dismantled understanding of where the land value sits compared to where ultimately the person buying it holds the baby, the seller with the landowner that's got the planning, regardless of their experience, kind of handing it over. They've made their money now, and quite rightly so, because of course they've gone through the pain to get the planning and they've got the asset, they've got control at the beginning. But at the same token, all of the risk is carried, of course, once you start the build and you're the developer. But what it could be is, right now I'm doing a development at the moment, just near me. By the way, that's Peterborough. Depending on where you're watching this in the world, Peterborough is in East Midlands, near sort of Cambridgeshire, in the UK. 6 houses have been put in the land got put in by the landowner, and we had a construction management agreement, and therefore we have a profit share at the other end. So when the proceeds come in, we have a profit share. A main contractor's coming in to build it, and in fact, in this particular circumstance, the landowner's fully funding the build. About £2 million they put in to fund it. Now, I wouldn't say that's unique. I think it's unusual. I don't think these things, if something can be done once, let's be honest, it can be done many times. But what's the chance of finding many people like that? I don't know. I've only done one of those. But people putting land in and you fully funding it with however it's being funded, normal funding or JV partner or whatever. But ultimately the land gets put in, and then of course the proceeds, and the landowner gets their money once all of the houses or flats are sold at the other end. So, which means there's no purchase money that's been needed at the beginning, there's no stamp duty, there's the saving of finance cost on the purchase of the land, so you're not carrying that debt throughout the whole build cycle. So it means that all of those savings can be handed back to the landowner, but they can only get that uplift, if you like, because of course they're staying in the deal. It could also be where, in that instance, what's called a overage agreement, which means that let's assume, for the sake of argument, that a GDV, a gross development value, has been agreed at the beginning. Let's just say all of the research that you've done as a buyer and a developer has confirmed, in terms of your due diligence, that yours and the banks and whoever else's, that the value is, say, worth 2 million at the end. Okay, now let's assume that fast forward 2 years from now, or 18 months from now, or a year from now, they're on the market and it achieves 2.4 because the market has picked up even further. Or you just literally, because of the quality, you were able to sell them for more, whatever that outcome was. So there's 400,000 uplift on the value. Now, what you could do with the owner is say to them, well, tell you what, let's agree a GDV. Let's agree a £2 million GDV. Anything above 2 million, an overage agreement can be, an overage payment, so an additional payment can be paid to the landowner over the 2 million. So let's say there's 400,000. And that's split 60-40 in your favour, because you're the one that's got to be, let's face it, motivated to want to sell it for more. Otherwise, you're just going to sell it for the 2 million and not, you know what I mean? Everyone's got to be motivated. My sales brain from back in the past, when I did this for many years as a salesperson, as we always know, structure will dictate behaviour. So if the structure is where you're not really getting much out of that uplift, you're not going to be particularly motivated to do that. And you've got to relay this over to the owner, because they'll think, that's great, I'm going to get all the money. Reality is, well, you're never going to be motivated to do it, because as a developer, there is no motivation to do it. So structure dictates behaviour. Of course, that needs to be both on your part and your part and theirs. So structured purchase, land gets put in. Of course, then there's things around, things like the charge, who has the security of the land. They're risking the land. So therefore, the uplift needs to be considerably enough there's a risk outlay here. So if they are getting £20,000 uplift to stay in the deal and get the uplift is too little for them to take that risk. You know, if you're talking a 50% gain, 40% gain, I mean, this is for you and them to decide as to what is where is the interest, what kind of tips the scales, and you'll only know that by having a very open, candid conversation. But the term collaboration is of that nature. You need to talk in a collaborative nature. That needs to be dictated by you, and of course you hope it reciprocates from them. So hope that kind of helps. So structured purchase is the way they're part money at the beginning, or ideally no money at the start. Therefore the money that you're borrowing, or your joint venture money, or your money, is going in to fund the build, not fund the purchase. So it means that they're getting the money as the houses are sold, typically not per unit. So if there's 10 houses being built, once all 10 are in, at that point, then all the money is in. And of course, at that point is when the money's going to be paid out. In terms of the security to the owner, it means that you can have what's called a B shareholding within that company. So within the special purpose vehicle, which is the limited company that's buying the site, or doing the build and in effect the buyer, the developer, it means that at the end, when all the money lands, you can have what's called a preference share agreement, which means the preference, i.e. the first lot of money that comes in, goes to the lender, because they're the ones that funded the build. The second payment, i.e. the first tranche of profits, goes to the landowner, and what's left is yours. So it's called a preference share, kind of like a waterfall. The lender will always get their money first, because of course they've got the main security over the land. Secondly, goes to the landowner, and thirdly, it comes to you. So everyone's motivated, and there's a hierarchy to who's getting paid what. So structured purchases is so common, or joint ventures with the landowner. All you've got to do is please do not forget to ask, is the owner open to doing that? Okay, so whether this is through a mandate, so an estate agent has brought it to you, say to them, there's a way here for the owner to get paid more, or for them to get to the ideal number, are they open to a structured purchase? Very generic kind of conversation, and ultimately it just means that you're going to approach them to ideally do this type of structure. So I hope this helps. Always ask the question, are you open to a structured purchase? Are you open to collaboration where you can get paid more? And you'll be surprised if you don't ask the question. You never know whether someone's going to be open to it or not. You might get 20% people that say yes, maybe less, maybe more. So just a food of thought. Hope you found this useful. Always look at the structured way of purchasing as opposed to just a straight purchase. Hope you found this useful. Take care and speak soon.